I am Wade Vaughn. I am a Sandbox ensemble member, and for this project I am also the assistant director. This is the first time I have assistant directed with Sandbox. I've worked on 4 or 5 other shows with Sandbox, so I'm familiar with their work. And this was just a great opportunity for me to sit on the other side of the table, as it were, and see how we create a show in that scope. The real big difference is that you are the outside eye.
Colossal gouts of soil and rock belched skyward.
And you have to have that arc from A to B, from the beginning all the way to the end. Whereas as a performer, you kind of get to be able to localize yourself.
Mark and Heather.
But because of the way Sandbox works as an ensemble, it's kind of hard to say that, well, I'm the assistant director, because there's so many voices in the room and we take everyone's input. So even as that I wasn't a performer in this particular piece, I felt like a performer because I helped create, I still helped create, I still stepped in, and it's all inclusive. I will admit I had severe growing pains when it first started. It took me a while to understand this idea that you can't know what the show is until you start creating it. Whereas, in a normal play, you have your play. You know what the show is. You're building it differently. So it was very difficult for me to kind of get behind this idea that I would come to rehearsal and be like, well, Ryan, what are we working on today? Well, what are we trying to get out of this scene? And he'd be like, well, I don't know, because we haven't created it yet. I was like, well, how do you know what you're doing? So it took me, and I will admit, I tried to put on a strong face, but I will admit it took me a while to get used to that.
The door's going to be open.
It's a whole other thing, and I will admit sometimes I have to just sit back and observe, because it can be overwhelming. A from the ground ensemble creation process, which means everyone is involved, everyone's ideas, and it's literally more about, I think, just coming in with really no expectation. I know that sounds kind of anti-productive, but as long as you're willing to keep yourself open and play, that's what we do, and that's what it is, and then we just pick it apart and put it back together in a different way.